love doing this. Okay, it is now 7 o'clock. And I will call the January 10th. What is it, 2023 meeting to order? I would ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Brendan. Here. Trustee Mansell. Here. Trustee McGregor.
Here.
Trustee Mitchell. Here. Trustee Radke.
Here.
Trustee Taylor.
Here. Okay, everybody is present. And I would ask everybody to stand in the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence after. For be the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country. I.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Chair will make a motion to approve the consent agenda and payment of bills for, and also the meeting minutes from, December 6th of last year, and vouchers, journal entries, etc. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice President Mitchell. Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried. If I can find it. I told the vice president when she got here that this issue of the municipality in my 37 plus years in law enforcement, and since I've been on the board, is probably the best one yet. This really puts it from financial stuff, dealing with what transportation, fixing your roads. And the article I liked best was the local government is mission critical. And tells you what we are, the hands-on government, and it's getting more so now. So I really encourage you folks to delve into the magazine. It is by far the best I've seen. Read. Otherwise, I have nothing else. And public comment. Eric, do you have anything?
No, sir, not tonight.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go into committee reports. We're gonna pass over the airport commission. You got the minutes from our December 1st meeting. And we did not have a meeting this month. We did send you an email explaining that we had nothing for the agenda. So we will have everything the first Thursday in February. That moves us to Police and Fire Commission. Did you get anything on that?
We did not meet. Their actions are done until the next hiring process.
Alrighty, moving into Public Works. Chairman Mitchell, please, or Chairman Radke, please.
We did not meet in December. Things seem to be going well, home removals. Streets are clean. Next meeting will be February 22nd at 5 o'clock to the 15th. We're gonna move that meeting.
Okay. Kind of hard to ask if you have any questions for Ron. They didn't meet. So. All right. Chairman Mansell, Park and Rec, pretty much same thing, I suppose.
Same thing, yeah. I think the ice skating rink is about, the pond is about ready, if it's not ready already. So they were flooding it.
Well, we haven't put a notice out that it's open yet. Just-
You have not, or
They're
did?
not.
I have not, okay,
We're still prepping it, so.
okay, well, there's that.
Alrighty, Chairman Mitchell, hopefully you'll have something for public safety.
Actually, I do, but we didn't meet in December either. But we did meet in January
Close enough, man.
Close enough.
For the board meeting.
on the 3rd. Yeah, fire department gave a good report, and Jason has anything to add. They were busy again because of an increase in medical calls apparently, but not fires. He wanted to emphasize so it's not fires, so that's a good. It may not be a good thing that we had medical calls, but we didn't have fires.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
May I ask a question? Without objection, I'd like to go off the table. We hear a lot about all the drug related, the fentanyl and all this other stuff. What percentage of your medical, your first responder calls would you, if you know, would you lump into your total? Like if you had 200 medical calls a year, what would be the percentage that are drug related?
Off the top of my head, I don't have a number. It's very low though. Yeah, the majority of our calls are elderly, slips and falls, lift assist, things like that. Every once in a while you run into a narcotic related call, but if I had to guess, I'd say 3%, maybe 2%.
I was just curious. I appreciated you started out, most of our calls are for the elderly. I kind of like that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No problem. Good to, yeah, good to know what the statistics are. And having said that, increased call volume. From what, 134 for 21 to 240 for 22. So that has also caused their budget to be increased this year by about 15% too. Let's see, and police. They're under budget by about 30,000 by the end of 2022, and other than that, it was kind of standard, pretty much the same numbers as the year before in citations and so forth, all of the categories that they use in their report. So having said that, it's a short report. Our next meeting is on the 31st of January at 4 o'clock.
Any questions for public safety? Go ahead, Steve.
I just had one correction. I think the total call volume you were going by was November's number. Since we didn't have a meeting in January.
Oh,
I
that
gave you the
could
numbers
be,
for November, and then again for December. I think total call volume was like 264.
okay, so it didn't include. You're saying it did not include.
So I think the number
December.
you gave was 240. It's like 260.
Yeah, okay,
Not a big deal, but just wanted everyone to know.
no, glad you clarified that. Yeah, I'm not sure that's clarified in the minutes, so, yeah, good to know. Thanks, Jason.
Okay, back to Chairman Mansell for FHR. I know you have something.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. We met January 5th. Talked about a lot of different things. I asked that we put on the agenda the total package for employee costs with benefits. Just so that we all have an understanding of all of that going forward, with potentially having to make any kind of adjustments or budget like decisions. That way we know exactly what we're making decisions on. So we'll go to the first motion. I'll make a motion to award full-time employees a $50 chamber gift certificate as a safety award for only one lost time incident in the past 26 years, the total cost of $700. This is a budgeted line item for 2023.
Motion by Chairman Mansell. Do I have a second? Second by Trustee Radke. Discussion. Hearing no request to speak, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried.
Okay. Then I'll just keep going along here. Motion to approve length of service award, the LOSA payment for the 2022 qualifying firefighters in the amount of $391 per firefighter, and the annual corresponding maintenance fee of $800 plus $20 per firefighter, for a total of $5,934.56. That will impact 16 firefighters. This is a budgeted line item for 2023.
Motion by Chairman Mansell. Do I have a second? Second by Trustee Radke. Any discussion? Hearing no request to speak, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
If I could ask a question of Nathan,
Without objection.
what's the maintenance fee?
Don't know what that is. That must be something that LOSA charges.
Okay. And then what qualifies how do you qualify for the LoSA payment?
Once, like individually, once a firefighter moves through the associate program and gets all their schooling and training, the minimum requirements, and they are then hired full-time, then they can start accruing money towards the LoSA program every year. It's like a retirement, basically.
So is it everybody that's on the roster?
There are, well,
Once you get qualified to a certain point?
yeah, we've one associate right now, so once they're full-time, they qualify to be enrolled in the program. And then they have to meet a minimum number of requirements, a certain number of meetings, calls, drills, things like that. It's like 35 points. And if they meet those requirements, they're in for the year. If they don't meet those requirements, they don't qualify, and depending on circumstances, they're not fully vested in the program, so they can lose all their money they vested in.
Thank you.
Sure.
Back on the table, Tara?
Yes.
All right, repeating motion by Chairman Mansell, second by trustee Radke. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Both same. So I can do every year. That motion carried. Seconded by trustee Taylor. Okay, item 4, Chairman Mansell.
Okay, we did have a discussion about our need as a village to conduct a full property re-eval of the village based on the state statute and just trying to get property values to where they should be. So again, I'll just read the whole, that kind of sums it up. Discuss the requirements to conduct a full property reevaluation of the village based on state statute, requiring this to be done every 5 years. Our last evaluation was done in 2005. We remained in compliance till 2019. We are now 3 years out of compliance. The state has a 5-year clock that has started and will be forced by the state to do one at their expense in 2026. The current village assessed evaluation is at 68.2% and dropping of property market and assessed value and by state statute, we are required to be closer to 90 to 100% of market property values. Is there any questions? Or do you want me to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't read the motion, that potential motion.
Yeah.
I would like, Colonel, if you would, just give a.
Yeah. So, that's the summary, because I've had a lot of questions on it as well. If we're supposed to do it every 5 years, we did one in 25, shouldn't we have done one in 2010? Yes, but the state gives you the ability, if you're in compliance. All compliance means is irregardless of a reassessment or not, if our valuation stays above 90%, you don't have to do one. And we had the benefit based on increased values, our assessor doing his job, that for many years, almost 10 plus, we were able to stay over that 90%. But 3 years ago, we were not able to stay anymore. The mill started catching up with us, commercial property was dipping, and we weren't getting enough net new construction in the village. Hence the 3 years out of compliance. So this will just reset the stage. It'll get a full-blown reeval. What you see in your packet is the actual contract, and the only change from the FHR meeting went back to Bomar and said, hey, give us the 5-year spread for the bill, not 3 years, so we can ease us into the pain of how much we have to pay them. It's a little confusing how he wrote it, because he gave you a large cost there. Every year we pay Bomar $6,500, $7,000 a year just to do his due diligence every year. He checks building permits, blah, blah, blah. That's irregardless. So this cost you see in there includes that annual fee. That never goes away. What the true cost for an assessment, a reevaluation of village, is about $30,000. So that's what he's charging us just to do the reeval. The reeval is every property on the village books will be visited. We'll get a letter and we'll do a walk around, physical walk around. If the resident owner, after seeing that number that he comes up with, has an issue on site from that inspection, that resident can say, I don't agree with this, come on inside and I'll show you. That is totally up to the resident saying, hey, I don't agree. Before you leave, do a walkthrough, and it's a lot less than what you say. So that's the only change. That's not a change. That's an option that he gives them. Otherwise, he comes up with a number, the letter goes back out, and then any resident can come back to the village, our council we have here in the late April, May timeframe, and basically protest the valuation to a board of citizens as well as the assessor. And then that determination of if it's adjusted will be happening. Does that make sense? So that will go, that's gonna happen this year if you all approve this. That'll get us to above 90%. The goal is a 95% valuation. And then that by default will automatically dip our millage rate by 2 to possibly 3 points automatically, without you all making a decision. I'm not saying everyone's taxes will go down, but that will bring the millage rate down. And then that's a start to trying to get everything reset. Okay.
So
Go ahead.
just to clarify, Boz, you're saying walk around, not walk through.
Walk around.
So they walk around and then conclude what they believe to be the value on the inside?
Check, because the bulk of your valuation comes from exterior conditions, roofing conditions, foundation conditions. Very little of your value comes from if you could, unless you're spending like a $50,000 chef's kitchen, like you. Unless you're doing some crazy stuff like that, he can basically get a pretty good assessment of the valuation because he's looking at building, primary, outbuildings, land value, utilization, brick house compared to stucco house, that type of stuff. If on site, you want him to do a full-blown walkthrough, he'll offer that, he'll do it. It's built into the cost, but that's up to the resident.
So how quickly does the resident get this notification? Like he's on site and he's gonna provide a number, so then they know that I'd like you to come in and look around and.
Well, if you read that, he sends letter, once we sign this contract, he sends letter out to the entire village saying, this is a reeval year. I will be coming to your area this window of time. As he gets closer to that window, he's calling all those houses and saying, hey, I'm coming tomorrow. So he starts setting up some appointments, just to give situation awareness. We will try our best to put a notice out through our networks saying, hey, a reassessment of rent would happen this week. Be advised, the assessor's in town. He's gonna have all the proper documentation, proof that he's the assessor. But it's really his job. We're paying him to do all that notification, letters and that type of stuff. It's about a 3 to 4 month process. That's why he wants to get started as quick as possible, because we have to meet a July.
Last time I spoke to him, he said he probably won't start till June, and we have our open book and board review in September.
Okay.
So it does push all that back.
Well,
when they do a revamp.
Okay. The guidance we gave him is we need this done to get it part of the calculations for 2024. He's the smart guy. He knows what that timeline. So come our budget time, we're having the right costs.
Go ahead.
So when it says the state has a 5-year clock that started, and that meaning,
When you're out of compliance.
okay,
And technically it's 6 year, the 6th year they force the evaluation,
Yeah.
they do it. And after a call to them, they ain't gonna do it for 30 grand. It's gonna be more like 60, 70 grand. Cause they send folks, not our guy.
right.
So Madam Chair? Are you ready to make a motion or
Oh.
take a motion, or you want to discuss it tomorrow in
Wait.
HR? Personally, here I'm passing the gavel. Personally, don't throw it at me. We're already 3 years out of our 5. We have 2 years to go, so if we wait till the dead end and not have a big brother in Madison send people that 30,000 from Bullmar is gonna be a little bit more too. I just think it's time to get this off. Our next. Thank you, ma'am. I'll take my gamble back. Thank you.
All right, anything else from anybody? No? Okay,
Better sooner than later.
okay. Then I will make a motion to approve the reassessment of all village properties to be conducted in 2023 at the cost of $30,000.
Motion by Chairman Mansell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Mitchell. Any discussion? Hearing no request to speak, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any comments or?
Let's see, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, our next meeting is February 2nd at 4:30.
Okay. Are you ready, Chairman Taylor? You got a lot of cabbage to swallow up there.
Making stuff happen.
Take her away.
We held the planning ledge and property meeting on January 4th. We also had a meeting in December, but I think we talked about that last board meeting. It started with a citizens of NEPCO, Mr. Hummel, and that group giving a little presentation about the Lake District. Talked about that. Then, I don't know if you guys are aware, but the last couple months, we've been taking ordinance chapters and kind of going through them and cleaning up some language, and we intend to keep doing so. And then once the ordinance book is done, maybe start over, and so they're just not stale. So by doing that, all the different chapters are in here in your minutes for review. A lot of the updates are in red. The strikeouts are what it used to be. The majority of chapter 1 was basically the powers between the village board and the administrator. And then just some other stuff, cleaning up some language. Chapter 4 was the police stuff. Basically that, all we did, the majority of those changes for chapter 4 and chapter 5, 5 being the fire department, was adding some language for the police and fire commission. So that the ordinances and their handbook now align, and then the fire department bylaws, as they get approved, they'll align there, so everything will be the same. So that's for your reading pleasure. But to approve those changes, without objection, I'd like to lump all 3 of those chapters into one motion. And by doing that, I will make a motion to approve changes to Village Ordinance Chapter 1, which is the general government. Chapter 4, which is the police and administrative changes. And number 5, the fire department.
Okay, first of all, is there an objection? Hearing no objection, the motion by Chairman Saylor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Grundon. Discussion?
I have some discussion on this. I see that, especially on chapter 1, change, the appointment of the police chief and the fire chief to the police and fire commission. And I did read the other part of the ordinances too, about how they'll answer to the police and fire commission. I guess one of my things is, the police and fire commission is something that's appointed, it's not elected. When we came to get an eligibility list, I know we directed them. Personally, I think a village of our size doesn't need a police and fire commission. That's my view. I think it's a lot of going from this committee to that committee. When it's time to hire a police officer, part-time officer, I think that's between the police chief, the administrator, and the group they put together. When it came to hiring a public works personnel, I think that Boz did a great job here. We included the public work director and some other individuals. We came out with a great candidate that's doing well. And so my opinion is, I guess, the need for a police and fire commission. And I still think that if the police chief and the fire chief should answer to the village board or the administrator and not to the appointed by the police and fire commission. So that's all I have.
No matter who does it, it still is basically approved by the board, because if they can't come to some agreement on wages and bennies and that, it doesn't go.
And that was, the thing too about setting the price of a new officer back and forth. It seemed like a lot of back and forth going to FHR, to the village board, just to even decide if we were gonna go with a position of hiring another officer. Where I think we can eliminate a lot of that if we just, we hire good employees, we hire a great chief, we got a good administrator. Between them two, I think that they can determine on who should be the next employee here in any department. And by going through another commission, I think it just wastes a lot of time. I think we had good candidates, so again, that's my opinion.
And without the PFC, then it would be the FHR making the decision to recommend to the board for approval of these hires. Of course, you know that. Anybody else? Go ahead, sir.
If we're discussing this, I guess I didn't realize this would be part of the discussion tonight. Yeah, I disagree, which you probably would have figured that out, Lon. I think we do need it, and I think part of what they serve as an unbiased. I mean, I know you might not agree with that, but perception hopefully is somewhat unbiased. Commission that recommends, actually, it doesn't actually select. I mean, it recommends who the top people are that they feel, and they have checked out background and, done all the due diligence that you would hope for candidates. So even though we're small, maybe because we're small sometimes, I think maybe we need a layer that, how do I want to say this? Insulation, okay, sure, that insulates us from, I want to say the politics, but that's probably not a good word either. If you've got another one here, shoot it out. Sometimes I think we do need, that level of selection, level of advice, recommendations that do eventually come to FHR and the board. So really, they are not making decisions, they're only making recommendations.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, the motion made by Chairman Saylor, second by Trustee Mitchell. Any other comments on the chapter 1, chapter 4, chapter 5? All three motions will be held in one.
I'll just make one more comment.
Go ahead.
So, Alon, the PFC is back and forth. This person, that person, if you were here a year and a half ago, we tried getting rid of it and it was unsuccessful. So we're just trying to clean up the language. Somewhere in the future, we may look at the dissolving it if need be. But as of right now, the motion is just for updating it because that's what was voted and approved on about the PFC a year ago. Something like that. When Mr. Bingham was still on the board.
Okay, we ready to vote? All those in favor of the approval of the chapter 1, chapter 4, chapter 5 changes will signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Nay.
And, okay, so the vote with 5 affirmative and 1. Okay, so that passes. Mr. Chairman, back to you.
Number 5. The chapter 12 is license and permits. And I think we were looking at that one because of the short-term rentals. 12.14. So there's some changes there. I think it's in the back of that chapter. It was just like adding a permit and there's a lot of discussion on short-term rentals fewer than 7 days. So you guys can read that if you'd like. I'd like to make a motion. Basically, chapter 12 is status quo for what it was. We had some minor updates, but eventually kind of went back to some other stuff. So I'll make a motion to approve the changes of ordinance chapter 12, license and permits.
There's a motion by Chairman Saylor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Grundon. Any discussion on chapter 12? Hearing no request to speak. All those in favor, excuse me, of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
And with all these chapters, I mean, feel free, any of you guys, if you want to come and sit as citizens and listen to it. Kind of dry, but just so you're not blindsided by any of the discussion, at least you know the. Number 7. So we're moving on to some of the parcels, some of the property that we have in town. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the final purchase of 140 Market Avenue. By the sheriff's sale of 29,000 with administrative and title costs. This will be funded by the TIF account, not taxpayer revenue.
I'll second.
A motion by Chairman Baylor, second by trustee Gregor. Well, thanks, but next time have the name showing in out of the back.
Can you see it that far?
I think I have, I think.
That's good.
Is there any discussion?
I
Go
guess
ahead, Ron.
I just have one thing, so final purchase, it is already purchased though, correct? So it's really, it's purchased, it's final,
Well, we put our deposit at the sheriff's sale.
okay,
The way the sheriff's sale works out with the county, you have, beginning of February, they have a court date, we go there, and then we pay the rest of the money.
okay,
And if, can I explain?
You go ahead.
No, this has been a year in the making. The sole purpose, this was advice on council, that because of not the messiness of their business, their loans, their bankruptcy, that the best way to benefit the village, so we don't have a massive amount of legal costs to fight through all that, if we wanted to continue to purchase. The recommendation by our council, as well as the council that was the holder of the loan, was to let it go to sheriff's sale, because then you get a clean title at the end with none of those strap hangs that will come from it. So that was the bid. The middle of February or beginning of February, we'll get the final title in our name. And yes, I mean, we could, if we walked away now, you all said done, then we as a village lose the deposit of 10%. Yeah.
But we did approve as a committee to
Yes.
spend the X amount
Up to 32,000 is what the committees
We
approved.
did.
Yeah.
okay, okay,
so it came in.
thank you.
Go ahead.
So to note on this, just for when the community is talking about it, this is specifically coming from our TIF funds that's specifically for the purpose of making these purchases. And if we don't spend that money in that format, we lose it, right?
When the TIF closes, we don't lose it, it's just that the
We
money
don't have-
comes back, yeah.
We have to spend so much for economic.
We
development.
allocated $250,000 for the life of the TIF to buy parcels that will benefit the village.
So, and just the reason why I bring that up is because where people are misunderstanding, like we're trying to buy properties that, you know, we're trying to do things within our budget capacity, and that's not this, that literally, if we don't spend this money, it's not coming from anywhere else, and we're just not gonna benefit.
Anybody else? On the purchase of 140 Market Avenue at the sheriff's sale. Okay, we had a motion by Chairman Saylor. A second by trustee McGregor. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried.
I'd like to ask one more question about that, though. What's the assessed value on that piece of property right now?
Assessed value was 75.
And that's without toilets and sinks that Adrian.
Well, yeah.
Number 8. Without objection, I'd like to table that. We're still waiting on some information to come from.
So
I will make a motion to table. Do we have to do that?
you just withdrew it. That's all you have to do.
I know Mr. Duncan probably would have had some fancy word.
Why do you do that?
Number 9. I would like to make a motion. Prior to that, I'll take a step back. So the next couple motions are for the parcels that we've been in discussion with the last couple months. We're just finalizing things. So by saying that, I'd like to motion to approve the lease purchase agreement of 140 Market Avenue, Suite A to Jennifer Oswald of Behind the Curtain LLC, Mission Coffee, for a 3-year purchase for 140,000 with a monthly lease of $350 to $550.
I second.
Okay, motion by Chairman Saylor, second by Trustee Grundon. Do we have a discussion?
Second by
Is
McGregor.
McGregor. Close.
Okay. Scratch Grundon and write in MC.
Diane's on it.
Couple questions, maybe Garrett can answer is, this lease here. And the next one, actually, you know, seems very low to rent a place, $350 to $550 a month. What does it all include? And are they locked into, one of the things I read here were that the village was gonna buy the signage, the outdoor signage for the business. I kinda have a problem with that. I think, for one, I haven't met these people. I don't know if I missed that somewhere in a meeting. But Mrs. Oswald hasn't been here, and I think that they should probably it's their business, and if we buy them a sign. And in 3 years, can they walk out of the agreement and we are stuck with a sign? And the rent is, I mean, $350 to $550 a month. I mean, there's craft shows that charge $300 a month for a booth, or for just a weekend for a booth. I think they're getting. That's a heck of a deal. I know that in the long run, if they purchase the property for the 140. Be great for the village, but how can they walk away after 3 years and we're stuck?
Well, before you answer that, would you explain the 350 to 550 rent is an escalating? And what that means?
Yeah, well, actually, the easier one to explain is a year plus ago, we approved with the ARPA money to get a standardized signage for our entire downtown. So we are purchasing, using ARPA money, a standardized sign for all the businesses to revitalize the downtown. And that was approved a year plus ago. We haven't executed that because we're still working with the designs and that stuff. So every business, to include the village properties, was included in that agreement. So they all look the same. They're gonna have the same motif, our little Port Edwards greenery, and then their business logos in the middle. And that's a village-owned sign. So if a business ever leaves, we just white out the middle, we slap the new business name in there. That was the intent behind that.
Okay.
And that's a worst case, that's a $500. It's not a lighted sign, just a metal sign that's slapped on the front of the building, 4 foot by 8 foot. That's for all these structures. But that's ARPA money.
Okay.
That we fenced off for that reason. For all these businesses, yes, we're looking at it as a reduced economic development lease to get a viable business established and get them up and running. If you looked at the conditions, and you can see inside that window, you look at the conditions of all of these, even with basic refurbishment that we have done, it's really just to get in the code. We are doing nothing cosmetic. That's all on the owner over there as well as over here. Paint, flooring, anything, it's all on them. All we're doing is bringing them up to the code that we're supposed to enforce. So that's where all our money's going into. So for specifically that location, it's a split parcel. We have suite A, suite B. We have an escalating rent, so if they roll out the 3 years before they purchase it, the rent starts at $350, year 2, it goes to $450, year 3, it goes to $550 a month. And they've agreed to that, so they know they're gonna be increased up, a stair step increase till the 3rd year. We've settled on the $140,000 price from now, even in 3 years, it's the same price. That's what they're wanting to buy it at right now. Based into the agreement, they could see they're going gangbusters and they buy it this year. And then we're out of the landlord business, they become an owner, and that's part of the agreement here. I think in my discussions with anyone that's been interested in any of our parcels, you know, trying to start a discussion of a rent for $1,900, just a non-starter for what we have to offer. These are not turnkey operations. You really have to, you gotta be, honestly, gotta be somewhat creative to help get the business in this environment we in. There's stuff in Rapids going for, with all utilities, the $300 to $400 range, the same amount of square footage. I can't speak to where they're at, where the, you know, the location, but that's what we're competing with. At the end of the day, there's some very interesting intangibles, I'll call them, that getting the properties back on the rolls, back up the code, and then back in the taxpayer base at, in most cases, 3 to 4 times the assessed value, specifically in that case. Also in this case here, the intangible there is we will see that benefit to the village in our equalized value going up by that amount. Hence, it affects the entire millage rate. And then hence it affects the amount of taxes they pay. And if you read through, so what you're seeing here is a memorandum of agreement between the two parties. What Nick, our lawyer, is putting together is the actual lease agreement. So it's a little bit of wording problem. And
Okay, that's,
all.
I was kind of
that's all-
concerned
yeah.
on,
So
this isn't the exact lease.
no.
What happens if they walk away?
They lose their deposit.
And hopefully they'll be.
Yeah,
Okay.
they lose their deposit. So there's deposit in all these cases here, 1,000 for them, 500 for the guy in the back, renting part of that space out from us, eventually from Mission Coffee. So that's an interesting one. All Fiddlebread is renting, honestly, is kind of like a storage building. No windows, no doors. It's just a place for a bakery, but it's attached to Mission Coffee. But he's paying us renting space. So that's a unique space that, yeah, I'm not gonna get more than a couple $100 for a garage. You know, it just, you know, the discussion that the Pitts had, giving me guidance is, you know, you gotta think outside the box, you gotta be creative, you gotta get some businesses in here. This is your parameters, your left and right limits, don't go above this. And I appreciate that ability to negotiate with all these folks. And we're working towards the best, because at the end of the day, they're back on the tax roll. They're employing citizens in the village. They're paying taxes. In all these scenarios, something that's been unheard of is that we are asking these renters to pay the equivalent they would pay in taxes to us, not in taxes, but in the form of subsidizing our business district. So the $3,500 a year they would have been paying in taxes if they owned it, our portion of that, their taxes would be higher. They're gonna pay to us as a business incentive every year.
But does that affect the other taxpayers because that money doesn't go? You know, I understand we're taking care of the taxes, we're tax exempt, but that doesn't go back to our tax roll now.
It goes to our revenue.
Well, revenue, but it doesn't.
Doesn't go to tax base. No, you're right.
So it affects the taxpayers and
Sure.
and all.
But between these 3 parcels we're talking about, we're gonna have annually about $6,000 of income that we can do things with our downtown district here. That we don't have to use taxpayer money for.
A year.
A year, yeah. I mean, that's some of the creative things that you can do when you're doing a lease as government, working a lease.
Well, and I guess
Yeah.
my main thing is, again, I had expressed this a while back, is I don't want to be in the rental business, and I understand it takes some out of the box thinking to get everything up and running. I think, you know, I see some of the progress coming. I guess in the long run, short term, fine, in the long run, we want to put these back
Agreed.
out to privately owned people, and I don't think we wanna be the village of the renters.
That's the long-term game.
Yeah.
Is we are not gonna rent, we're not gonna lease, if to get them off of our books and have them pay us tax revenue. Otherwise, if we
Remove the
don't,
light from the downtown area.
it's gonna turn into the computer building. The
Yeah.
computer building, they wanted a mint.
Yeah.
Every time somebody wanted to come in there, they're like, I want X amount per month, $5,000 a
I'm
month.
gonna call
Okay,
everything back to item number 9, because we're now starting to discuss other buildings that are not part of this motion. Does anybody else have anything to say on this particular item number 9?
Just a clarification I have is once, Mission Coffee, if they decide to purchase, they're purchasing the parcel that the Fiddlebread would be, so then
Yes.
they'll be the landowner of,
You're exactly right. We're out of the rental business from that point forward for both of them.
okay.
Mission Coffee deals with Fiddlebread on any deal they do on their own. Yep.
Okay, if there's no further discussion on item number 9, the motion was made by Chairman Saylor and seconded by, thank you, Eric, Trustee McGregor. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried. Okay, last one.
Number 10, the last one is I'll make a motion to approve a three-year lease of 140 Market A Suite B. With a monthly lease cost of $150 to $350 with Joe Hoffman of Fiddlebread LLC.
Motion by
Second.
Chairman Saylor, second
Second.
by Trustee Grundon, discussion. There are no requests to speak. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then that is it. Our next meeting will be 1 February at 4:30.
Okay. Skip H, or, you mentioned, the Knuckle Lake at your start of your thing, right?
For the Lake District presentation, yeah.
All right, number 9, or 8 rather now, would be unfinished business. Going to number 9, new business.
Hold on. For your unfinished business, or. Yeah, old business. To Chairman Radke's point last month, we did do some research on, potential other insurance companies that we could work out, for the village. Right now, there's nothing in Wisconsin other than what we have for villages and cities. There's another entity that does towns. So now, we're signing our agreements with our current insurance holder, Spectrum, but we will be now looking outside the boundaries, Minnesota and other places, if there's comparables that can give us quotes come this budget cycle. So we have something to compare to. And that was what you asked for there. The motorhome up north there was moved, just so you're all tracking. That coincided with the house went up for sale, the renter left, now the house is up for sale. The people that came in here complained about the motorhome parked outside. So that's been resolved. And we have officially we're in the process of the insurance claim for our fire truck damage. So instead of the $5,000 to $6,000 cost, it'll be just a $500 deductible to do the repairs to the fire truck. So we submitted all the documentation that they request. Now we're in the process for them. They were the 3 old business due outs.
Okay. We'll now go back to you for village administrator report.
Short report there. Obviously, the budget stuff, we just started the year, so I'm not gonna get too much in the weeds on that. No change in our staff. That's it. We are starting in Public Works. We'll discuss some more. We're gonna submit our bids for First Street. For the design work for First Street. That's gonna be about a $500,000 project, $500,000 project in the near future. So it'll be about $50,000 for the bid work, for the construction design. So that goes out for bid and we'll get some information back shortly to get a decision on. Dog park's working well. We drive by there most days. They're taking out the trash. The gate's secure. People are utilizing it and no complaints from most so far. Safety, no issues there. Budget, we talked, we're good on that. Nepco Lake, we're having a Zoom meeting on the eighteenth. It'll be during lunchtime. That'll be discussing with the Nepco Lake Subcommittee and any issues they want to bring up before the pit committee. We talked about our properties. I sent you all the State of the Village report. Appreciate the feedback. What I am going to include there, that's why I haven't published it yet for public consumption. I'm going to include a couple sentences on the reassessment. I think that's we need to tell our citizens earlier rather than later. So I'm changing that, some of the language in there, just gonna be a couple sentences saying in 2023, the village is looking at a reevaluation. Then we'll publish that.
Please go into how long it's been.
Oh, yeah, no, it'll be some details there. Because that, if we'd be remiss if we didn't even mention that and they get a letter in the mail. So that's why it hasn't gone out on Facebook or the village website. We're doing ERCO's doing a emergency exercise tomorrow with county. So, this is gonna be in the few months down the road here, probably in the summer months. There'll be a major exercise at ERCO with a chemical plant, disaster, man-made disaster. That would impact operations in the village. So we're gonna start getting involved in that with the county. It's county run, ERCO run. We're gonna be obviously as the landowner, or main entity of response will be involved in that.
Directed by FEMA.
And then, update on your shared revenue discussion. We had a meeting today with the the legislature folks, Robin Voss and those guys. Right now, it's looking like the incentive is going to be changing the shared revenue calculation using sales tax to give a penny of the state collected sale tax and break that across all the municipalities. Doesn't sound a lot when you say it's a penny of the state sales tax, but for us, the basic calculation would end up being double our shared revenue moving forward. So instead of the 250K we get a year in shared revenue, 260. If this goes through the legislature and they're the ones sponsoring it, with no other loss of revenue, just in shared revenue, we might be able to double our revenue to get us an extra $250,000, which would be great. And it's tied to the sales tax, thus it's tied to inflation and increases as years go forward. Where right now, shared revenue hasn't changed in 20+ years. It's been the same or less for many years. So that was a good discussion we had, and they were very supportive of that. Tied to that, you'll see in next month going through Pitt, a resolution from us as a village supporting that endeavor. So they can take all these up to the, they being the league municipality, they can take all these up to the legislature saying, you guys have a good idea. Here's the towns and cities and villages supporting it. This is agreed to by your county association, your town association, and your cities and villages. So it's everyone saying, we like this idea, and we're not gonna bicker about who gets more or less. Towns will get more, it's just a given. Cities and us are in the same bucket. Counties always get more, and the counties are already collecting it, but they don't share their revenue. They keep it at the county level, so. Yes. And, that is all I got. You all have a question?
I'll believe it when I see it. I think to be that way. How often they did it, 6.5 billion. Okay, enough of that. Clerk treasurer.
Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve an operator's license for Adrian March with Amicable, valid through June 30th, 2023.
So move. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Mitchell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And I'd also like to ask for a motion to approve a Class B beer and a Class B wine license for El Cafe LLC, 221 Market Avenue, whatever, valid through June 30th, 2023. And I just want to say that the police department did a background check on the people.
Okay, so move. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Mansell. Discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's still March 1st that they're looking.
Yeah, they want to open as early as March 1st.
Okay, trustee comment. Go ahead, George.
You wanna go?
Oh, well, I was taking my glasses off, but I didn't think. The only thing I was gonna say, I'll just go ahead and take your spot and get out. I'm really glad to see the number of people that are using the dog park. Yeah, I think that's a real plus, so that was it.
Walking around while I was getting signatures, for the upcoming election, I had a lot of, it kind of surprised me that I had a lot of the older residents that really appreciate the Facebook. I was surprised that they even knew what Facebook was. But they like that quick way of getting information out to the masses. And by also saying that on the other side, they do not like the website. It's clunky, it's hard to navigate. And when they're looking for things, minutes and whatever, it's just hard. So I don't know, maybe, and this is a new business. It doesn't need to be on an agenda or nothing, but just something to pop through in your head. And then lastly, a lot of them were asking, and I know I brought it up in the past, but, the meetings being uploaded up to YouTube or community media or whatever.
Dana said I've gotten calls on that too.
There's some issues with the community media, because we upload them every month. And for some reason, they're not transferring it to YouTube. Their answer to me is, you guys should be able to just upload them yourselves to YouTube. And I said, okay.
Well, we
You know,
might, I mean, I don't know what we're paying for community. I mean,
Nothing.
well, there used to be an expense. Well, that's when they
That's
came
what
in.
he did.
That's what he
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I'll just
The
say
expense was paid for by the money we received.
from FTC or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so we could create our own YouTube channel and then put stuff up on there also, but just something to
Okay,
talk
all
about.
right.
Just
I'll dig into it.
me walking around. Talking to people.
Yep.
So.
I have one question for you and kind of for you, chief. Do you firemen, hone in on the elderly? Cause that's the second shot I got from Leighton. Chief,
Kind of third, actually.
no, that's the vision issue. And man of the cloth. Big thing. So, but good, it's good stuff.
The only thing I had is that we're gonna move the public works meeting to the 22nd at 5 o'clock instead of the 15th. I had a conflict with that, and I talked to our committee.
After, Parks and Rec,
Correct.
22nd.
Yes.
What time?
So when is Parks and Rec? Okay. You're gonna do it time? 5?
So Public Works, 22nd, February, 5 p.m. Okay, anybody else? As far as going through the village calendar, could I impose on you just to fire out an email with an updated one? So, okay, without objection, I will call this meeting adjourned at 7:57.